From the outset, my mother-in-law, whom I'll call Marge, has never warmed to me. When I first started dating my husband, she maintained a courteous mask around him, but when we were alone, her attitude turned icy. As our relationship deepened through engagement and wedding preparations, she subtly made it clear I wasn't truly part of her family. I tried to overlook her behavior, clinging to the hope she'd eventually accept me. But after my father-in-law, whom I'll refer to as Tom, passed away unexpectedly, her coldness intensified. Tom was a warm, generous man who welcomed me with open arms, unlike Marge. Before his sudden death, Tom shared with my husband and me that he'd set aside a fund for our dream wedding. We were touched by his kindness and felt honored by his desire to make our day special. Since his passing was so sudden, nothing was documented, leaving us to trust his verbal promise and Marge's initial agreement to honor it. After Tom's death, Marge took charge of the family's finances and initially assured us the funds would be available for our wedding as Tom intended. Despite our tense relationship, I believed her. We spent months carefully planning the wedding we'd always dreamed of, reserving a venue, hiring a caterer, booking a photographer, and finalizing every detail. Marge remained mostly uninvolved in the planning, which I preferred given her hostility, though my husband and I kept her updated. We set a date, sent invitations, and included my husband's older sister, Lisa, as a bridesmaid. Lisa and I were never particularly close. She often mirrored Marge's aloofness, but we stayed polite. I hoped the wedding might bridge the gap between us. But about 2 months before the event, Lisa's husband faced serious legal trouble, arrested for fraud charges that had been brewing for years. The news shook the family. Lisa was consumed by stress and embarrassment, and Marge was frantic, worried her son-in-law might miss the wedding or face jail time. My husband and I sympathized with Lisa's plight, but were firm that the money Tom set aside was for our wedding. We didn't discuss this with Lisa directly, assuming no one would touch our wedding fund for another purpose. Unbeknownst to us, Marge had other ideas. Without our knowledge, she used Tom's fund to bail out Lisa's husband. The money was under her control, and since it wasn't legally designated, she likely felt justified in redirecting it. We only discovered this when a relative hinted that Lisa's husband was out on bail, despite the high amount set by the court, which Lisa couldn't have covered alone. Concerned, my husband called Marge to confront her. She was vague at first, saying the bail was handled, but after persistent questioning, she admitted she'd used the wedding fund. That moment is etched in my memory. Sitting beside my husband on our sofa, I watched his face drain of color with shock and anger as he put the call on speaker. Marge, defensive and tearful, insisted she had no choice because family comes first. She claimed Tom would have wanted his son-in-law at the wedding, not in jail. I cut in, demanding why she'd used our wedding money without consulting us. Hurt and furious, I was stunned when Marge snapped that I wouldn't understand because I wasn't truly part of the family. Her words stung deeply, reducing me to tears. My husband immediately defended me, telling her that her actions betrayed Tom's wishes and our trust. Marge, now sobbing, argued we should be thankful that Lisa's husband could attend the wedding, even suggesting we should appreciate her efforts to keep the family together. Thankful for using our entire wedding budget to bail out a man charged with fraud, prioritizing him over her son's wedding, my husband was shaking with rage. He reminded her that Tom had explicitly allocated the money for our wedding. Marge, still crying, countered that there was no written proof, and as the widow, she had the right to use the family's money where it was most needed. She dismissed our wedding as just one day compared to the crisis of Lisa's husband's situation. I couldn't stay quiet. I accused her of excluding me from her definition of family and making unilateral decisions about our wedding fund. Marge ignored me, addressing only my husband, as if I didn't exist. Seeing the conversation was futile, my husband ended the call abruptly. We sat in stunned silence, both trembling. I broke down, overwhelmed by frustration and disbelief. Our carefully planned wedding, every detail we'd envisioned, was now in jeopardy, as we couldn't afford to replace the funds on short notice. Over the next few days, We contacted our vendors to explain the situation. Most were understanding, but we still lost significant deposits and incurred cancellation fees. It was heartbreaking to let go of my dream dress, the elegant decor, and the catered meal we'd planned. My husband was devastated, consumed by anger and guilt, apologizing repeatedly, though I reassured him the blame rested solely with Marge and, to some extent, Lisa for going along with it. After much reflection, we decided to cancel the grand wedding entirely. The idea of proceeding with Marge or Lisa involved, or even present, was unbearable. We informed only my closest family and friends of the change, and while my parents offered to help cover costs to salvage the big wedding, we declined. We couldn't face a celebration tainted by potential drama. Instead, we opted for a small, intimate ceremony in the backyard of our rented home. The backyard wedding was bittersweet but beautiful in its simplicity. On what would have been our original wedding date, we exchanged vows under an old oak tree with only my parents, my two closest friends, and one of my husband's best friends present. A family friend ordained for the occasion officiated on short notice. We kept the event secret from Marge, Lisa, and my husband's extended family, fearing they might show up and cause a scene. I wore a simple white dress I found last minute, not as grand as my original gown, but I cherished it, and my husband wore a sharp suit. We shared a cake my mom baked, exchanged vows, and shed joyful tears. Despite the circumstances, the day felt perfect because we were marrying each other. In that moment, the pain caused by Marge and Lisa felt distant. We didn't immediately tell Marge or Lisa about the wedding, needing space after their betrayal. We posted a single, subtle photo online with just the date and a heart emoji, thinking they wouldn't notice since we'd already distanced ourselves on social media. But they found out quickly, likely through a relative or mutual friend, and the fallout was intense. Less than a week after our backyard wedding, Marge and Lisa showed up at our home, banging on the door in a rage. My husband answered, and we stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind us. Marge immediately began yelling, demanding to know how we could get married without telling her, his own mother. Lisa was equally furious, questioning why she, his sister, was left out. My husband calmly explained that their betrayal with the wedding fund and disregard for Tom's wishes left us no choice. Marge called us overdramatic and ungrateful, insisting she'd bailed out Lisa's husband for the family's sake, so he could be at the wedding. I countered that they'd prioritize their own agenda over our special day, which wasn't their decision to make. Marge screamed that she'd done it for us, to keep the family whole. Lisa accused me of valuing a lavish party over family unity, which pushed me to my limit. I unleashed years of pent-up pain, revealing to my husband the hurtful things Marge had said behind his back, calling me a schemer and an outsider who'd never be true family. I detailed Lisa's exclusionary behavior, like ignoring me at family events or treating me as an interloper. I even shared how, after Tom's death, Marge had called me selfish for wanting a wedding at all, despite my offer to delay it out of respect, which she'd brushed off. My husband was shocked, hearing these truths for the first time. Marge tried to deny it, stammering that I'd misinterpreted her words, but her weak excuses only confirmed my account. Lisa tried to back her up, claiming I'd taken things out of context, but that only further validated my story. My husband, now furious and heartbroken, confronted them, saying their treatment of me and their betrayal with the wedding fund was unacceptable. He told them to leave and that he wanted no contact with them for the foreseeable future. Marge sobbed, begging him not to abandon his mother, while Lisa angrily accused him of choosing me over his true family. As they left, Lisa shouted that we'd regret it. My husband and I were shaken, but relieved to have finally spoken the truth. We collapsed into each other's arms, and I apologized for not sharing their mistreatment sooner. He apologized for not noticing it himself. It was an emotional moment, but it felt like a weight had been lifted. In the days that followed, my husband cut off all contact with Marge and Lisa, blocking their numbers and removing them from social media. Some relatives reached out after hearing Marge's skewed version of events, and we shared our side. A few understood and supported us, noting they weren't surprised by Marge's behavior, which was comforting. My husband said he had no intention of reconnecting unless they showed genuine remorse, and even then, he was uncertain. I admitted I'd stayed silent to avoid driving a wedge between him and his family, but he hugged me and said, "You're my family now, and I won't let them hurt us anymore." The drama wasn't over, though, as Marge and Lisa soon escalated their behavior. We hoped our honeymoon, planned shortly after the confrontation, would offer a reprieve. But Marge and Lisa persisted, bombarding my husband with texts from an unfamiliar number, likely a burner phone to bypass our blocks. The messages swung between "please, we're family, don't let her tear us apart," and attacks, claiming I'd brainwashed him and that Tom would be ashamed. My husband sent one reply asking who it was, but their response, a rant accusing me of manipulation, confirmed their identity. The message claimed I'd turned him against his family and that Tom would be disappointed in him. My husband was furious, nearly throwing his phone, but instead, he calmly blocked the number. We both blocked it on our phones for safety, as the messages targeted him but could easily turn to me. We kept our phones on silent or off for most of the trip, determined not to let their toxicity ruin our time. The mention of Tom hurt my husband deeply. He knew his father would have been appalled by their actions and supportive of us. We discussed the situation during quieter moments, and my husband was firm that their behavior warranted no response. He had no intention of reconciling after such low tactics. I supported his choice, whether it meant permanent no contact or a temporary break. The rest of the honeymoon was peaceful, with no further messages after blocking the number, allowing us to focus on each other. Returning home from our honeymoon, we hoped for calm. But as we pulled into our driveway and began unloading our bags, Marge and Lisa ambushed us, rushing from the side of our house. I nearly screamed from the shock. Marge shouted my husband's name, demanding to talk as a family, while ignoring me completely. Lisa stood behind her, glaring at me with hostility. My husband stepped in front of me, ordering them to leave, as we'd already told them to stay away. I quietly dialed 911, sensing their aggression could escalate. Marge tried to push past my husband, insisting they were coming inside to talk. He blocked her, repeating that they weren't welcome. Lisa hurled insults at me, calling me a manipulator and blaming me for ruining the family. My husband shouted at her to stop, keeping them at bay. Marge, enraged, screamed that I'd caused all this and accused my husband of turning against her because of me. She even raged about me calling the police, having noticed my phone. The situation spiraled into chaos. Marge lunged toward me, whether to grab or hit me, I'm not sure, and my husband caught her arm to stop her. Lisa shoved him hard in the chest, trying to pull him away from Marge. He stumbled, bumping into me as I pressed against the door. In the scuffle, Marge struck his shoulder, causing him to yell in pain. I shouted that the police were coming, but they only grew more frantic. Sirens blared and officers arrived, quickly separating us. One spoke with my husband and me, while another dealt with Marge and Lisa. Marge collapsed into hysterics, sobbing that she was just a mother trying to talk to her son. Lisa lied, claiming it was a family discussion and that I'd overreacted. A neighbor, who'd witnessed part of the altercation, corroborated our account, and my husband showed the officer the red mark from Marge's blow. We explained their trespassing, prior instructions to stay away, and the physical threat they posed. The officers arrested Marge and Lisa for assault and trespassing. Marge wailed, begging not to go to jail, while Lisa screamed that we'd betrayed our family. My husband watched silently, his face a mix of disbelief and resolve as they were driven away. We were shaken. Within 15 minutes of arriving home, we'd gone from jet-lagged newlyweds to having his family arrested. The police advised us to seek a restraining order, which we did immediately. That night, exhausted, we sat in our living room. My husband iced his shoulder, and I felt numb from the ordeal. He kept repeating, "I can't believe they did this." We held each other, processing the betrayal. Therapy has since helped us cope, especially my husband, who's grappling with his family's actions. The restraining order ensures Marge and Lisa can't contact or approach us, and we're pursuing the assault charges with a court date pending. For months after our backyard wedding, Lisa's husband's fraud trial concluded. He was found guilty and faces a likely prison sentence. Word through family channels says Marge and Lisa are devastated. My husband, who'd normally support his family in tough times, briefly considered reaching out but decided against it. He told me they chose this path, not us. I warned them and they didn't listen. He was referring to their misuse of the wedding fund and his earlier cautions about Lisa's husband's shady behavior, which they ignored. I told my husband I'd support him if he wanted to check on them, despite the restraining order and our no-contact stance, but he felt that reaching out would undermine the boundaries he'd set. Their choices, betraying us and prioritizing Lisa's husband, led to this outcome, and he believes they must face the consequences alone. We agreed to maintain no contact and focus on our life together. With the restraining order and legal proceedings, Marge and Lisa have gone silent. We're in therapy to heal from the trauma, and our home is now a haven of peace. It's sad it came to this, but we stand by our decision to protect ourselves from their toxicity.